everyone. My name is Kent Swanson. I'm the Public Art Project Coordinator with Bernalillo County. And our schedule for today, we're going to just have a quick review of etiquette and housekeeping. We'll review the project for the benefit of folks that are, if it's, we've got a few guests here from the public, so we'll go over a little bit about the history of the project and the goals for the project. And then we will jump in with Joel's presentation at 9:15. Presentations are scheduled to last half an hour. The artists don't necessarily have to take that full chunk of time. So if we do end a little bit early, we'll have a bit of a break before our next presentation. But yeah, there'll be that half an hour presentation time, 15-minute question and answer period. And then we'll jump on to the next presentation at 10 o'clock with Margarita Paz-Pedro and Alma. Though there's a scheduled break at 10:45 to 11. And then our final presentation, Kyle Erickson, at 11 to 11:45. If the panelists, we have a scheduled lunch break. So if the panelists want to go ahead and take that full time, that's great. We can resume discussion with the panelists from 12:30 to 1. We'll also have the option, if the panelists are okay with it, we can plow on and finish up a little early. Just kind of depends on how folks are feeling. So that's the rough schedule for the day. In terms of how the webinar and the presentations will be managed, we'd like for the panelists to remain muted during the presentations. Just everybody's familiar with the traffic noise or a barking dog in the background and whatnot, so that we can give the presenters our full attention. If you'd kindly remain muted during the presentation, unless a question comes up, then you can unmute, you can raise your hand, unmute, and then address the presenter or address me as I'll be moderating. We have two different roles for the folks attending today. Panelists are the original selection committee members for the project, arts board members who are in attendance, and any county commissioners who are in attendance. I actually don't believe we have any county commissioners on at the moment, or we have, looks like, 3 guests. So guests are any members of the public who are attending today. You are muted just by default. And then after each presentation, we'll, as a moderator for the presentations, I'll unmute you, and then you'll have an opportunity to ask questions after each presentation. But the panelists are set up a little bit differently so that they can ask questions or address the artists during their presentation. But we do ask panelists to go ahead and raise your hand and be addressed and then unmute, so that we have a smooth flow to the presentations today. So let's see, any questions about the protocol and etiquette before we proceed?
Seems straightforward.
All right. Great. So just in review of the project, the South Valley Pool is located on Isleta South Rio Bravo in the South Valley community. And the project budget for the Mosaic is $35,000. The county public art program is requesting that the Mosaic be made of durable materials that will withstand our desert conditions and also possibly be in contact with water. We request that the materials have a structural lifetime of at least 25 years. Mosaic is intended to have a design and concept that connects to the traditions and landscapes of the South Valley. And it was a request in the call for arts for a community engagement element. So involving the community in some way in the creation or design of the mosaic. In review of the mosaic location, we looked at a couple different sites, namely the outside building entrance facade, and the selection committee also thought this wall that was separate, that separates the splash pad and the pool itself, would be an interesting feature for a mosaic as well. So the artists were invited to consider both or one of these locations for their proposals. So as an option to kind of be creative and look at the different sites. Roughly the exterior wall, this is kind of what it looks like in terms of the dimensions. There's about 697 square feet on the outside. That excludes this door space, and these are panels above the actual wall. So the physical space of the exterior wall, that's broken up into a couple of photos here, is again about not quite 700 square feet. And this space here, the wall separating the splash pad and the pool, is about 114 square feet on that one side. And let me see. All right, and the project goals are to create a landmark public artwork that recognizes the cultures and communities of the South Valley, to engage the community in the creation of the artwork, and to provide a welcoming environment to users of the South Valley pool. In terms of the aesthetics, the selection committee also put a request that the mural be culturally use sensitive and consider the diverse cultures and landscapes of the South Valley, and also to consider the colors and designs of the spray park and splash pad, as well as the nearby Corriente del Valle mural, which you can see part of in the background. And again, these are the colors of the splash pad and spray park features. So artists were asked to consider that in their design, just with the aesthetics and coloration. A little bit of discussion on the process. At this point, the committee members that are present today, I'll be sending you an online form via email shortly. This has a rubric and a review process that you'll go through after the presentations. That will give us a preliminary score for discussion purposes at the end of the 3 presentations. Folks who are not able to attend from the committee today will also get this scoring sheet, and as we are recording the presentations, and we'll be posting them online so that all the selection committee members can participate in the review of the presentations, since I know it's a tricky thing to get everybody in the same room, virtual or live, all at the same time. That's how we'll do it. We'll do that scoring, the initial scoring at the end of the presentations. We'll discuss before we break, and then the selection committee members from the project will be, you're invited to attend the Arts Board meeting this Monday. And the committee, if the committee today at the end of the presentations could select a representative to present to the Arts Board this coming Monday. That way we can have an initial conversation about the results. What we'll actually be doing as well is we've had some feedback over the past few years that in terms of the public art process and projects, public comment should become more of an aspect of the the process. So we will have a period of public comment, and we have kind of refined the process so that public comment will be scored and weighted, and I can go over that after the presentations with folks. So once we see the presentations, do the initial scoring, we again will have more of a conversation with just the committee members here that are present today about the next steps and how that public comment will figure in to it. But just so folks know, we're going to edit the recorded video into 3 pieces, put out a blurb on our website and social media so that we allow time for the public to chime in and give their feedback about these proposals. So with that said, that's kind of my review of the etiquette, the process, and the project background. We'll go ahead and jump in, and we'd like to welcome Margarita Paz-Pedro with the apprenticeships for leaders in the Mosaic arts, our next finalist. And just really quick, once again, if folks can remain muted during the presentation just to kind of cut out any background noise, you can. Panelists can address Margarita, just raise your hand and then unmute during the presentation. Margarita, you'll have a full 30 minutes to present, and then we'll open it up to questions from panelists as well as any members of the community that are in attendance. So thank you once again, Margarita, and without further ado, if you'd like to get started.
So hello, everybody. My name is Margarita Paz-Pedro. I'm a co-founder, co-director, and artist for Alma. My internet might be a little weird. I'm at my school where I teach at, and we just moved into this building, and it's kind of spotty. If it seems to be a problem, sometimes turning off the camera helps. So let me know if I should use that option. So ALMA stands for Apprenticeships for Leaders in Mosaic Arts. We're a nonprofit arts organization. We incorporated in 2015. Before that, we were a program under different organizations. And it was in 2015 that we decided, you know what, let's try this on our own, and have been doing that ever since. Our main mission we support and nurture artists of all ages in creating artworks of exceptional quality while building entrepreneurial skills. Our paid Mosaic Arts apprenticeship model develops leaders through a diverse and inclusive program. So just to give you an idea of some of our past projects. So like the mission said, we run an apprenticeship program. We hire youth from around Albuquerque to help us in every step of the process of these tile mosaic murals. Every tile is handmade, and every apprentice has had a hand in, I would say, at least every tile. This one is from 2015 at the Albuquerque Convention Center, called Giver of Water, Essence of Life. Our main program is called the Alma Summer Institute, and that's when we do the majority of our murals. It works well with our apprentices' schedules because often they're in high school or college, so they do have the summers open to be able to work and be employed within this arts field. Here's another example. This one's called Once Upon a Story Time, and it's at Wantabo Library. And this was done in 2013, 2014. But this also gives you an idea of how we utilize the negative space of the building in collaboration with our design. So while we might not do tile edge to edge, we do consider the space around it and how to best utilize what we work with. This is our most recent project at Valle de Oro National Wildlife Refuge. It is the first time we did freestanding concrete forms that we designed with our apprentices and the community. This was kind of a project that has been in the works since 2016. And this one was unique in that we did a lot of community engagement, and we hired community consultants from the Mountain View community as well as Pueblo of Isleta, and gathered stories of the river, because this wildlife refuge is adjacent to the river, pretty much shares that area. This is all the way at the end of on 2nd Street, the very south end of 2nd Street. So we just finished this in September. And so these sculptures are about 6.5 feet high, 8 feet wide. And if you're in the area, definitely check it out. We haven't publicized this one as much. We were hoping to do a whole dedication, but due to COVID and the fact that it's on a federal wildlife refuge, the restrictions are a little bit more than what we have in the city. So this is the budget, just to jump right into that. All of our tile is handmade by our apprentices, and often our summer projects are anywhere from 200 to, no, I would say 150 to 270 square feet. And since we hire youth, you know, our cost per square foot is a lot higher than what this budget allows. So we would look for alternative funding sources so that we would be able to pay our apprentices and some of our other costs. So looking at the projected, we have insurance costs, our tile supplies, which include clay, glaze, mortar, and grout. We're gonna, myself and my co-director, Vanessa Alvarado, she would also be on the project. We would hire 3 apprentices to help as well. We have studio space that we currently have and create our different projects in. Kiln firings, stipends, documentation, whether it be photo and video. Our plan is to hold community tile making workshops. So these are costs associated with that. Transport, tables, supplies, paying the youth. And then food. We find that it's always good to have food. A well-fed employee is a happy employee, I would say, at least in my case. Administrative costs, so the different costs that are accrued through payroll and running all the checks that need for like studio space and our utilities and all of that. And so we looked at the total being about 42,360. We would get 35,000 from Bernalillo County, and then another funding source of 7,360. So here's the design. I just want to mention that so I am from Las Cruces, New Mexico. That's where I grew up. I was born here in Albuquerque, and I have family in Laguna Pueblo. So I'm both Pueblo and Mexican American. My co-director, Vanessa Alvarado, she's born and raised in Albuquerque, South Valley. Her family goes back generations. So we have deep investment in this area. I moved to South Valley region around the time my daughter was born, so about 8 years ago. And it was the part of Albuquerque that really reminded me of Las Cruces, and that it's city, but also county, and that it was urban, but also rural. And so we also both work as high school teachers at a school that is located in that area. And it feels like home. We see ourselves in the students. So we do have a deep investment in this community and region of the city. So the way we approach it, and personally how I approach most of the works that I do, is through a Balbo and Mexican American lens. I want to acknowledge the ancestral lands of the Pueblo peoples. We can also acknowledge that currently the South Valley has has had a large Latina population that can trace its history to indigenous people from Mexico, the Spanish, Caucasian, and then the mix, and as well as African American and Asian folks. Our main theme is water. It's a finite resource in the desert. And doing the VDO project, and when we talk about the river and what it used to look like, these ideas of our resources and how do we maintain them and get them back to what maybe they used to be, if that's possible. So the geometric pattern lines reference water through pottery images. And the linear water design is inspired by Mesoamerican motifs. We know that this land served as an historic trade route for our Pueblo peoples and the indigenous people to the south. So that's where the inspiration that I started from comes from. We chose colors that are similar palette as the mural to the south. The water, that like luscious turquoise mix. We also incorporated sunflowers as a symbol for hope, resilience, strength, beauty, and growth. Lastly, we wanted to put a few dragonflies, because where there's water, there's dragonflies. We feel that all these design ideas speak directly to the site and aesthetic considerations. So we are working with the length of the wall to the best of our ability with this budget. It is a large amount of square footage that because of the way we work in hiring youth, it's not just me, or it's not just my co-director, but we pay our youth a decent wage, and that therefore makes our costs go up per square footage. So that's why we chose this linear design. And while it doesn't cover edge to edge, it does spread across the length of it. And in combination with that and the color choices, it still feels like a robust work of art. So our plan is to make all of our tiles at our studio. We then install our tiles on site. We hand butter every tile and stick it on with our apprentices. Once the design is up, the mortar is cured. That's about a 24-hour turnaround. We also grout the mosaic. What's exciting, what we feel that could be exciting, is the possibility for the folks who frequent the pool, who visit the pool, to engage with us while we install. We find that during installation, people often, well, I would say almost everywhere we've installed that is out in the public, people stop, hey, what are you doing? What is this? And then not only does that show them there's public artwork going up, but it gives our apprentices the opportunity to practice their own speaking skills about the artwork that we created all together. So all of our materials are graded for outdoor use, and they have held up over the years. And it's actually very minimal maintenance, which is a really nice thing. I've gone back to visit multiple murals, and they look like they were on day 2. So here's some close-ups of those designs. And so here you'll see our kind of like signature tile shapes, and that's how it'll look along the whole thing. I just didn't draw all those lines on every piece of this, but this is just to give you an idea of those lines. It also gives the feel, to me, it gives a feel of water for sure. We wanted to make sure that we left enough space to still show these water swirls with the doors open. So our plan is to, what we would like to do is set up in front of the different service centers that are near the pool. So the senior center, the skate park, the library, the pool as well, and spend a half day and encourage folks to help us make a tile. And we'd like to brainstorm exactly what we would like to do in the tile with our apprentices, because they have really amazing ideas, but just some maybe preliminary thoughts are they can embed their hopes for water for the future with lettering. They could carve a tile how they see water. So those are just some preliminary ideas. All those tiles they would make, we would then glaze and fire, and they would be installed inside the mural along this line. So that would be a community tile making workshop. And then an additional community engagement could be during the installation of the tile. So like I had said earlier, if we are able to install on the outside as the pool is open, we can share what we're doing and who we are and why we're doing it. And we often make extra tile as we create, and we give those tiles to our visitors, and they can take a piece of the mural home with them. So timeline, I think it just depends on when notification would be. If it's early January, then it could be possibly done by the beginning of pool season, but we do think you're missing out on a really good engagement opportunity if you want it done before then. So, thank you. And I am all open to questions.